Hey tribe, and welcome back to the MLG podcast. I'm your host Mandy, and this is episode number 22. I'm here for you every Tuesday to help you live an empowered life. Have you ever worked on a vision or a goal and given it a lot of time and effort and resources, and then at some point you just felt like you couldn't take it anymore? You could not go on for even one more second. You've been at it so long, and although you may even feel like the end is near, you're just so irritated with the process and so tired of not having real results to show for it. And maybe at this point you start contemplating whether maybe it's time to call it quits and move on to something else that will inspire you again. Now, before you do that, hear me out first. I want to share a story with you from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And this story has been a mental anchor for me many times when I wanted to give up. And I'm really hoping that it will do the same for you. It's called 3 Feet from Gold, and I think I'm just going to read you an extract from the book because why rewrite the story? Buckle up, kids, it's story time. I don't wear glasses, won't be able to see much. One of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Every person is guilty of this mistake at one time or another. An uncle of R.U. Darby was caught by the gold fever and the gold rush days and went west to dig and grow rich. He had never heard that more gold has been mined from the brains of men than has ever been taken from the earth. He staked a claim and went to work with a pick and shovel. The going was hard, but his lust for gold was definite. After weeks of labor, he was rewarded by the discovery of the shining ore. He needed machinery to bring the ore to the surface. Quietly he covered up the mine, retraced his footsteps to his home in Williamsburg, Maryland. Maryland? I don't know, sorry. And told his relatives and a few neighbors of the strike. They got together money for the needed machinery and had it shipped. The uncle and Darby went back to work on the mine. The first car of ore was mined and shipped to a smelter. The returns proved they had one of the richest mines in Colorado. A few more cars of that ore would clear the debts. Then would come the big killing in profits. Down went the drills and up went the hopes of Darby and Uncle. And then something happened. The vein of gold ore disappeared. They had come to the end of the rainbow and the pot of gold was no longer there. They drilled on, desperately trying to pick up the vein again, all to no avail. Finally, they decided to quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and took the train back home. Now, some junk men are dumb, but not this one. He called in a mining engineer to look at the mine and do a little calculating. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. His calculation showed that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. And that is exactly where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he knew enough to seek expert counsel before giving up. Most of the money which went into the machinery was procured through the efforts of R.U. Darby, who was then a very young man. The money came from his relatives and neighbors because of their faith in him. He paid back every dollar of it, although he was years in doing so. Long afterward, Mr. Darby recouped his loss many times over when he made the discovery that desire can be transmuted into gold. The discovery came after he went into the business of selling life insurance. I believe he was very successful at that. Remembering that he lost a huge fortune because he stopped 3 feet from gold, Darby profited by the experience in his chosen work. His simple method was to say to himself, I stopped 3 feet from gold, but I will never stop because men say no when I ask them to buy insurance. He owes his stickability to the lesson he learned from his quitability in the gold mining business. Before success comes to most people, they are sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. When faced with defeat, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. And that is exactly what the majority of people do. More than 500 of the most successful people America has ever known told the author their greatest success came just one step beyond the point of which defeat had overtaken them. How did I do? Now, I read this story about 10 years ago and it still pops up in my head anytime I feel like I want to give up. Now, in the story, he talks about how it is defeat or failure that usually makes us quit. And that is probably usually the main reason, but it's not the only one. And I think it's important for you to know what it is that makes you quit or makes you want to give up. So, for example, I'm not necessarily afraid of failure because I know it's a natural part of the process, but I've learned what gets me every time is boredom. I love the excitement and the unknown of a new project, and that's why I go all in. But then over time, when I get comfortable and I have to do the same things over and over and over again without having much to show for it, that's where I really have to dig deep, no pun intended, and remind myself that I have to keep going because I really don't want to stop 3 feet from gold. Now let's just explore a few more possible reasons why you would want to give up before you hit your goal. A big thing is often the time frame, the fact that we don't know exactly when we are going to reach our goal. It's one thing to have a specific time frame, like when you're doing a course and you know exactly when the last module will end. But a lot of times in our big goals in life, we have no idea when it's going to happen. And also it often depends on a breakthrough that is kind of out of our hands, like being at the right place at the right time, meeting a person who is interested in your vision and who can help make it happen for you, or the right person seeing your ad, or something as being in the right time and place to meet your soulmate. And sometimes there's just no getting around the time it takes for the seeds that we planted to grow and bear fruit. That time in between requires a lot of perseverance, and because we don't have a guarantee of when we will get it, we are prone to get very frustrated and give up. Also on the topic of time, we often have a warped sense of time nowadays because of the instant result and instant gratification world we live in. And this makes us impatient and unrealistic about how quickly we will reach our goal. Now I'm going to share with you wisdom that I came across a whopping twice this week, once through Rich Roll in a podcast interview, and I also read it in Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game. So since it's fallen in my lap twice already, I think the universe really wants me and you to know this. We tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and completely underestimate what we could do in a decade. Beware of this time trap. If the goal is worth it for you, then it is okay to take longer. Some good things just take time. Now, another nasty pitfall can be comparing yourself with others who are on the same road as you. This could be related to financial success, relationship success, weight loss, business, career, whatever it is for you, fill in the blank. When we often compare ourselves to others and we feel like we're always lagging behind a little bit, we often make this mean that we're not good enough or that maybe we should go a different way. Please focus on your path. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes for that person. And although you may have similar goals, the journey there can be completely different. So show yourself enough respect to walk your own path in your own time. Now, you may have a completely different pattern that always shows up and stops you from hitting your goal. Maybe you are subconsciously afraid of how your success will impact your life and your relationships. Perhaps you fear that you still won't be happy after achieving it, so you rather keep it at a distance because then there's still hope. Maybe you're tired of doing the things you have to do in order to follow your dream. Perhaps you are tired of the people you have to associate with. Explore whatever it is for you and use that knowledge to move beyond it. Because remember, Darby learned his lesson and became highly successful because of it. If you don't learn your lesson, you're going to keep repeating the same patterns. Now here are a few more tips that might help you move beyond your usual quitting point. When you get tired, take a moment to stop and recalibrate. Remind yourself of your why. Visualize the joy of success if you keep going. Visualize your life after you've reached your goal. Find extra support to help you carry the load when you get tired. And just keep going no matter how small the progress is. Ask for expert advice if you feel like you're stuck or that your process is not working. And then one last thing that I really like to do is to just focus on getting through today. So when I get tired, I tell myself, I can quit tomorrow. I just have to get through today. And then I get through today and I do exactly the same thing again tomorrow. If your goal is worth it, keep going. Right now, you could be just 3 feet away from your best life, but you won't know if you quit today. I hope that this episode helped you. I hope the wisdom that Napoleon Hill gave us will help you as well to stay with it. Maybe if the goal is not worth it for you, it's time to move on to something else. But you know if it really is. You know if it's your heart desire and something you really believe in. And if it's that, then it's always worth it to keep going. You can do it. You can find your gold. Now, of course, don't go anywhere because there are bloopers coming up. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and leave a comment if you want to leave a comment. But most important of all, always remember to live an empowered life. Thanks for watching and I will catch you in the next one. Hey tribe, and welcome back to the MLG podcast. I would like to welcome you back to the MLG podcast. I'm here for you every Tuesday. Okay, never mind. So let's just explore a few oh. Let's explore a few more. Oh, it's just it now. It's like a few new reasons. If the word is goal for you and stops you from hitting your goal, I'm becoming Miley Cyrus.